Hello, my name is Tiffany Barella, and I am going to be interviewing Mrs. Selena Aragon. She is the vice principal at Valencia High School in Los Lunas, New Mexico. Miss Aragon, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for my class project today at Grand Canyon University. As part of our last course requirement, our group is preparing a presentation that's going to include a video/audio recording of our leadership interview. I will be doing mine with audio only. Before we begin, I want to formally ask for your permission to record our interview today. This recording will be used solely for academic purposes within GCU and will only be shared with the instructor and the group members of my team. If you are comfortable with this, could you please confirm that you give permission for this interview to be recorded?
Yes, ma'am, I give my permission.
Thank you, Ms. Aragon. So I have a couple of questions for you today based upon your last year's experience on the leadership team at Valencia High School. The first question I'd like to ask you, question number one, is what are the most important qualities an effective leader should have?
I think the most important quality that a leader should have is that they have to be able to lead with their heart and with their mind, with their brain and their mind, because you're leading people and people are humans. So you have to have empathy and you have to have heart while still having an authoritative figure, but where you're leading people, not bossing people. I think there's a difference between a leader and a boss, and I think it's important for as a principal for us to be leaders because we want people to trust us. We want people to talk to us. We want people to be able to bounce ideas off of us and feel comfortable doing that. And if you're trying to just boss people around and not value what they say or who they are as an educator or as an employee, then you're not going to get anywhere with them fast. I think there's times where you have to step up and be a little bit more stern, but at that same point, you're working with adults. You know, if you're talking about being a leader of a school, and when you're talking about your staff, you're working with adults, and they need to be treated as such. They're not kids, and you have to make sure to be respectful of them and value who they are. So I guess the main thing of being a leader is to be human. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay not to know everything. But you have to work hard, and you have to show your staff that you're willing to work hard for them and with them.
Awesome. I definitely agree. Thank you so much, Ms. Aragon. Question number two is who has had the greatest influence on the way you lead and why?
I've had quite a few really good administrators throughout my career. I've been 20 years in education, and I've had some fabulous administrators. I've taken from them everything that I can to kind of make my own leadership style. I would have to say it was probably Kathy House. She was my boss when I was an academic coach, and she is just phenomenal. She talks, she stays even-toned, she's passionate. She doesn't ever make you feel like you're dumb or you're dumb for asking a question or you're less than she is. But she is a leader that wants to grow her people, that is always supporting you on whatever growth ideas you have and giving you the supports in place that you need. And, you know, when things got tense or high stress, she's able to stay cool, calm, collected. She's very thoughtful in her words. Her tone is very calming. And she's so knowledgeable. She continues to learn every single day. That was one thing that she always recommended to us. And, you know, take 30 minutes out of your day to learn something new, whether it's, you know, listen to a podcast or read a chapter out of a book or, you know, read a educational article to stay up to date with what's going on in education. She always encouraged us because that's what she did. She stays up to date on all that stuff, and she's fabulous. So I would say if anybody that I would base what what I want to be off of is being with Kathy House.
Awesome. Thank you so much. She sounds like she was a wonderful support to you and like a really good leader for the Las Lunas schools. Thank you, Miss Aragon. Question number 3. How has the leader's leadership style evolved and changed over time since you started in education versus now?
Just in general, like leaders, how their leadership has evolved.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I think there's always shifts in education that kind of go full circle. But even from my first year of teaching, my principal was fabulous. I had Miss Juliet Benedita, and she pushed, and she had expectations, and you follow those expectations. But one thing I'd always say when she would push us is like, I knew she was working 3 times as hard as we were. Yeah, she may be asking us for all this stuff, but I knew she was also up till midnight reading articles and making sure she was up to date and making sure she was knowledgeable. So when a leader is working hard for their staff doesn't mind working hard for them. I don't think I've ever had a leader that has been terrible. In my 20 years, they've all had. I haven't seen it evolve very much. I guess my leaders from the day one to now have all had really good attributes to them.
Awesome. That's wonderful. That's so great to hear. We always need good leaders in education and that always make sure that we are putting our children first and really just honing in on all that they are capable of doing. And I love that. That's a great answer. Question number 4, Mrs. Aragon. How do your values guide the way you lead and make decisions?
I think one thing before you become a leader, and I did that in my leadership classes, is you have to really dig deep inside and see what your core values are as a person, because you want to be your authentic self. You try to be, if I go in and I try to be Kathy House, they're going to see me as an imposter. They're going to see me as trying to be something I'm not. You have to be true to who you are as a person and use that to be a leader. So I think your core values is huge. My core values always being on the side of treating people with respect, having empathy for people, knowing that I don't know what they're walking in. I've not walked in their shoes. I don't know what they're dealing with at home. Treating them like I would want to be treated if I was a teacher. And yeah, there's some staff members that like to push the buttons and push the envelope and do all that stuff. But the main part for me is I need to be their calm place. I need to be the place where they can come in. I can tell them what needs to be done. We can bounce that ideas, and then I can start coaching them up. Because the deal is my job as a leader is to coach up my staff. So if they're not where they need to be, that falls on me as a leader. That's my job to go in there and coach them up. And if they're failing, I'm failing. So, I think that's where it comes into play that you really have to treat people with respect. You have to humanize them. You're not treating them like little kids. You're not the mom. But you have that respect. You respect their thoughts. You respect their values, and you listen. Big thing is to listen. Because there's nothing worse than going into an admin's office, wanting to have a conversation, and they're busy doing other stuff. They're not even listening to you while you're talking to them. I would say my core values are respect and empathy.
I love that. I love that very much. Okay, so those were the 4 questions that GCU created. Now, Mrs. Aragon, we're going to go ahead and dive into the last 2 questions. And these questions are based on our team. We went ahead and created them together with best practices in mind and just being really thoughtful about leadership and education. So, question number 5 is, what has been one of the most challenging moments for you as a leader? And then, what did you learn from that experience? That's the same question. That's going to be question number 5.
So what's my most traumatic experience and what was the most challenging experience?
So it's challenging. So what was your most challenging moment for you as a leader? And then what did you learn from that challenging moment?
Is what I learned. Um, so I have 1 year of being an admin under myself, and I would say the most challenging day for me was a day that I was at school by myself. My assistant principal was off campus, and my principal was off campus, and I was there by myself. And we got an alert that a girl had told a substitute teacher that she had a gun in her backpack. And it was the first time I had dealt with any of that kind of stuff on my own. And it was challenging. I'm not going to lie, it was challenging. I was the one calling all the shots. I was the one deciding if we were going to go into lockdown or not go into lockdown, or if we were going to, what our next steps were going to be, how we were going to notify parents. And so I think staying calm, I relied on my SRO at the time, and we worked together to, call our superintendent, make sure that we're following all the appropriate steps, calling the girl in, doing the check, doing all the stuff. The girl did not end up having a gun in her backpack, but we did end up going on lockdown and having to notify parents and, all the things. And that was definitely the most challenging. I think what I learned from that situation, and every situation that I'm in, is a learning experience, is the biggest thing you have to do is you have to stay calm. And that's been hard for me this year. Like in high stress situations, I get stressed too, and I want to panic also. And we can't. As the leader of the school, you're the one guiding all the steps. So you cannot panic. You have to stay cool, calm, and collected. And that's hard to do. So that's something I'm continuing to work on. We've had other high tense situations that I know I need to do better, staying calm. And so that's what I'm working on, is definitely being able to stay calm, be able to be level-headed in these high-stress situations, especially when working at a high school.
Yes, that definitely sounds like a very frightening experience. But it also sounds like, you handled it with grace and you did a great job, like you said, following the appropriate steps and the chain of command and figuring out what to do. So yes, that definitely does sound like that would be very challenging. Thank you for that, Mrs. Otagon. And our last and final question number 6, is going to be, how do you help the people you lead feel supported, valued, and motivated to grow?
I think being there, being present, it's huge. When we're talking about our teachers and our staff, be there, be visible, be out, be seen, do all the things that you need to do to, sorry, give me 1 second. I think it's super important to, if you're going to give feedback to a teacher, you need to make sure you've been in that room more than once, more than twice. Whether it's just walking through or not walking through, when they see you and when you're not automatically pointing fingers, but you're asking questions, you're asking them, what do they see? If you could change anything in your lesson, what would you change? If you're listening to them and you're seeing what they want to grow on. Now, you may have something else that you want them to grow on, but if you can use what they want to grow on and kind of get that tucked in there with it, that works, But I think if you listen and you're visible and you're present and, you're accessible to the staff, they feel supported. There's nothing worse than getting an evaluation from somebody that's only been in your class one time, or having somebody telling you that you did something wrong and they never even stepped foot in your class except for one time when it was a bad day and Johnny was throwing chairs across the room, and that was just a fluke, and now all of a sudden they think that you're a bad teacher. There's nothing worse than that. Like, come in and see. Come see what I do. So I try to make it a point to be in classroom, to just go in and sit down like a student. I go in, I kind of sneak in. I don't talk to anybody. I sit next to a student. I stay there for 10 minutes, leave a little note, and go on to the next classroom, just so that I'm visible and I can see. And if I do have to address a staff member or a teacher, I have more than one experience. I can say, well, hey, I was here on this day, and this is what happened. And I was here this day and this day. Hey, how can we work on this together? Because I'm seeing, your whole back row is asleep every time I go in. Is there something we can do to help change that? Let's do a different thing in maintenance, or maybe, in the middle of the lesson they have to stand and sit just to get them with their heads up. Something. You have to be able to attach what you're saying to true experiences. Otherwise, people aren't going to take you serious. They're going to listen to what you say, and then it's going to go out the other ear. So I think it's just important to listen, to be present.
Yes, that's a great answer. I definitely think that is definitely so important in order for your staff and your teachers and your team to feel supported. And then with that, automatically, I think kind of comes them feeling valued. And then, like you said, if you're out and about, I definitely feel that that's a motivator for them to continue growing and learning and to supporting our students, which growth looks different depending on the kids and what needs to be done, but I definitely think that's a great idea. Okay, Mrs. Aragon, well, I just wanted to let you know, and ask you if you have any additional comments or thoughts or things that you'd like to share one last time before we close out this interview.
I don't think so. I think just the main thing is anytime you're leading people, make sure to have empathy. Make sure to treat them as humans. Um, don't ever degrade or make somebody feel like they're lesser than you because they have a different position. Um, yes, you may be the principal of the building, but your job isn't any more important than the teacher or the custodian. We all have to work together to make the school run, and we all have different responsibilities. I think that's important to stay humble and stay kind. There's no reason to be mean, ever. I don't think. So that's my word.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Aragon. I appreciate you taking the time to reflect on your educational experiences and leadership within your first year as an administrator at Valencia High School and with the Las Zonas Public Schools. And again, thank you so much. And we appreciate all your time over the summer. Supporting my learning and making sure that I am also able to grow in my education, and really just taking me in when I went to go visit your school. I had a pleasure working with you all summer long. Thank you so much, Mrs. Aragon.
You're welcome and good luck.
Thank you.